So I'm going to start and show you with about 750 grams approximately of potatoes. So say Christmas side dish, that might 4 people, if you're maybe doing 2 at push 3 potatoes each. And for kind of like normal side dishes, I would say maybe to feed 2 to 3 people. So peel your potatoes, that's the first step. Once peeled, I'm going to wash them and then we're going to cut them up into the sizes that you want your potatoes to be so we can parboil them. Then we're going to boil these in cold salted water, bring them up to the boil and cook until you can pass a knife through. Just, so we want them al dente, we don't want them soft enough you can mash. We need them to still have a wee bit of structure to them. That's been around 10-15 minutes. And if I take that off the heat and show you, knife's going in, so that's what we're looking for. I'm just going to add these into the big colander and give them a really rough shake. So we want to rough them up to they look like that. And then we're going to put them on a plate, and the stage that I do with my roasties is freeze them. So you can do this first stage ahead and then just the second stage actually when you're planning on cooking the roasties. So add them onto a plate. And I sometimes sprinkle just a little bit of salt over. And then just put them in the freezer for a few hours or overnight, whatever you fancy, until we're going to cook them and finish them off before serving. So we're going to go into roasting the potatoes now. I am probably about 6 hours later, but again, you can leave your roasties in the freezer for as long as you want. I've got some thyme here. I'm going to just tear them off and as much as I can take away the big long stalks because we don't eat them. Some of them will end up in the final dish anyway, but we just know that we can't really eat them because it's like eating tiny tree trunks. Not quite, but you get me. Next, we're going to go in with the fat. So I'm using goose fat. You see it's kind of runny at the top here, so that's what I'm going to use. If yours is quite hard, I'd microwave it for a little bit just so you can measure out accurately. So the amount of potatoes I've got, I'm going to add about 4 tablespoons. We don't want too much because if you have too much oil for the potatoes, they don't crisp up as well. So there's 4 tablespoons. Added plenty of salt to the potatoes. I've taken these out of the freezer at this point. I want them to loosen up enough that you can actually get them off the plate. But before we add the potatoes in, we're going to add this in to the oven to preheat and get the oil nice and hot before we add in the potatoes. So like I said, you can gauge it based on how much salt you put in your potatoes. You can add a little salt in here as well, or right at the end, totally up to you. So let's get this in the oven, preheated to 220 degrees. I've wrote that in the caption. I'm just taking this out the oven and it is roasting hot. To that, we're going to add the potatoes. Now add these in, and then I'm going to use these to turn them over just to make sure they're all coated in oil. And then throughout the cook, we're going to use these to turn them as well. Okay? Put them all in, sugar them about, coat in oil, and then back in the oven. So just to show you, that's your potatoes after 20 minutes. You can give them a wee sugary about if you want. Now, there isn't too much oil in here, but I don't want them too coated. It gets them nice and crispy if there isn't. I'll probably check them again at about 30, 35. And if I don't think they're getting there, I'll maybe add or drizzle more oil, but I'm quite positive these will turn out okay, so we'll stick them back in. So that's us after 35 minutes. I'm just going to add a tiny bit more oil. Now remember, do not overdo it because they do not crisp up the same. They just don't crisp up well at all. But as you can see, starting to look good, peoples. And put them back in for another 10 minutes, up to 45 minutes. And my guys, is your taters after 45 minutes. So nice and crispy on the edges, still fluffy on the inside, nice wee crispy bits. And that's my roast taters. Enjoy.